So this is something that really improved like how much work I get done and how motivated I am and so on and so on. So if you're someone who is like really passionate, one day you decide to go like all like super like locked in grind mode, monk mode, you will just wake up 4 a.m. and just work all day, don't sleep at all, and just don't go out at all, close the curtains and that stuff. And after a while you notice that you kind of cannot do it anymore, and then you're just like back to base one, back to where you started. Kind of like a yo-yo diet. Like you eat super healthy and you work out super a lot. You go like all the way to the extreme, and because it's so extreme, you just have to like bounce back all the way, the full obesity, right? So first of all, I do think that different seasons are cool and they work. If you can have like really different goal and mentality for like one season, like some months, just like focus on like certain thing, and then maybe come back to a bit more like normal schedule. And then like if you want to be like hyper fixated, hyper focused on like certain thing, I think that's cool. We're not talking about seasons this time. We're talking about more like a average day and what should that be like. So first of all, I want to talk about this mentality. And by the way, I'm not really completely sure like what monk mode is, exactly what it includes. Honestly, I know that Iman talks about this, but I'm gonna talk about this thing. Let's call it hardcore monk mode, and it is the most extreme grind mode there is. It is that you only work a lot and only do the essentials like eat and sleep, barely sleep, go to toilet, that's it. You just stay in all day and just work basically. And this is something that you hear is being promoted by certain people somewhere, yada yada yada. If like you're entrepreneur, if you're into like running business, this is like something that you hear quite a lot, and it's fairly like common mentality, and it pretty much like takes the whole like grind thing to the extreme. And I've seen that like some time ago there has been a lot of these videos that like grind hustle culture is dying or something, and people are kind of like going against this wave of hardcore monk mode stuff, super hardcore grind mindsets. So what I think that hardcore monk mode, it does not work. It is something that might work for for a while, for momentarily, but then eventually you will end up being slow, unmotivated, have no energy, and might even like end up in a burnout. And the weird thing is that if you do it, you might actually succeed in whatever you're like trying to do, whatever like business you're trying to build. You might actually succeed. That's not the main issue. The main issue is that once you do it this way, once you like go to the dark side of things, you will end up losing yourself. At least it's way easier to lose yourself once you become too obsessed in the business in the wrong way, too obsessed in the numbers and data and yada yada yada. Like you're thinking like a robot basically. You will slowly, you don't even notice it, but you will slowly end up losing yourself. And this is something that I noticed that also like happened to me, not to the like crazy extreme, but in some sense I noticed that this even happened to me. For me, for example, personally, I had like two things that I like enjoy doing quite a lot. I enjoy training, and not just like going to gym, but like breakdancing, b-boying. If you don't know what it is, Google it. And then also I enjoy making music. So those are kind of like things that in theory, on paper, they don't give like anything. It's just like basically waste time if you just like look at it from my business point of view, right? So what I end up doing is that I just end up like not doing those things. And if you use the same logic, I would like leave the house at all. I wouldn't see the daylight at all ever, really, which is quite depressing. So what I noticed is that when I did these things, I mean, like in theory, I had like more time to focus on my business. But the thing is, I just didn't like, I didn't have any drive or motivation, and basically I just became slower and sadder. But yeah, I did have more time, but like I couldn't really take advantage of that time, if that makes sense. Okay, and this is something I think people are a bit different. Some people like notice the results faster, some people don't. That's why it's a bit more maybe dangerous. Like if you don't notice it right away, it's easier to like ignore these things for a while, because then like you end up like having like all this success business wise, but then like you forgot like what do you even like, who are you as a person, and what's the kind of life you want in the first place. So what I noticed myself when I started to go to train every day, I started to like do music again once in a while. But it's all about the return on investment. It took a bit of my time, but like the amount of like motivation and drive and energy I got from it, it's just like way more. It just gives me way more than I spend on it. If I just like spend 1 hour like training or doing music or something, it will give me drive and energy for like many days of the week. Physically I feel better, mentally, yada yada yada. It's just like even on paper, on numbers, like from the business point of view, it is still a better thing to do, I think. Especially if you're not a retard, you don't want to just like think short term. Like, yeah, I mean, if you just like wanna get things now and do things fast, yeah, and if you're those fucking retards that just like does something well for a moment and then you just like don't care about the future, like whatever. But like I could like longevity, like building like a proper business long term, things that work long term and just like build up, if that makes sense. And this is something that builds up. It feeds itself. It's like a positive loop. The other one is like it's really dramatic. Like you might get like a lot of work done at first, but eventually you slow down, you will become sadder and yada yada. It's like a negative loop that just keeps going. That's what this video is about: living your dream day right away since the start. Because if you sacrifice everything you enjoy just to have a business and money, to like forget about like the things you even like in the first place and become this like shallow version of yourself, you're basically kind of like a cook to yourself, if that makes sense. And that's some like and that's you thinking quite little of yourself. So we don't do that here. We want to figure out what we want, and we want to like proudly just like go and take it. Okay, so how do you actually build this dream day? So you want to start from this hardcore monk mode that I talked about, which is just the essentials: work, sleep, eat, that kind of stuff. And then you want to start like one by one, start adding these things that your ideal perfect day would have. And you don't need many of these. Like I said, that my main ones, they were just like 2. It was training and music, right? That changed things a lot for me. Maybe 3, which is like walking. I just go for like quick walk outside. But yeah, it cannot be like way more than 3 because then it kind of defeats the whole purpose. If your dream day is something that you don't spend a minute working on anything, then then I don't know what to do. But on this, obviously, like you want it to be something that you can be. You want to optimize to be as productive as possible, get as much done as possible, but also have only those things that you like truly enjoy. The whole point is to get rid of all unnecessary fluff that you don't care about, like for example brain rot and that kind of stuff. So start from the hardcore monk mode, and then you start adding around 3 things to your perfect dream day, right? So what should these 3 things be like that you add in there? Well, you want to like look into a couple of things. How does it make you feel afterwards? Because like some people, like for example, let's like take gaming. Like people think that, oh yeah, gaming is like this fun thing that I do and so on and so on. But like in reality, like let's think about it. How does it make you feel afterwards? Because when you think about it, quite often when you stop playing some games that you thought you like, you kind of feel like shit. You kind of feel like down because you just got like beat up by a 12-year-old kid in something that you like really tried your best and you've been like grinding for a while. You need to be, this is something that like you need to actually pay attention to, like how it makes you feel afterwards. What does it give you back, right? You need to start like being cautious about this stuff. Yeah, you can like test things, test things, but could like be in the top three because it might not be like super obvious, but you probably have like some understanding. It might be that gaming might be there, but like maybe these like certain games where you get your ass beaten by 10-year-olds and it just makes you feel like shit afterwards. Maybe that shouldn't be there, right? Do you think that's gonna be beneficial to your life in a like a big meaningful way, right? So you want to think about, does it give you energy? Does it give you motivation? Does it give you like good happy feeling? Does it give you like a meaning, purpose, those sort of things, right? Like for example, b-boying, music, that stuff. I've been doing that stuff for like a long time, and I've been like getting good at it for a long time. So that's like something really purposeful, for like meaningful stuff. Just like in business, like when it's something that you commit to for long term, it is really, really like it gives you way more purpose than just like that game you hate when there's nowhere to go. You just kind of like killing time, which is fine if sometimes if it truly like makes you feel really good, like playing with your friends, fine, whatever. But like I said earlier about the return on investment, you want this to be something that gives you back and is important enough to actually be valuable enough to be included on this perfect day. You really want to think that if you could only have 3 things for the rest of your life on top of these essentials, what would you do, and what would be the things that would make your day perfect, a dream day? And once you start doing those 3 things, it should start a positive feedback loop when you just kind of like get more out of it and more out of it, and you want to do more, you feel better and better and better, but if not, then there's probably something to fix there. Maybe you have too many things, or maybe you have the wrong things in there. So this is something that you kind of have to like just test and try and pay attention to and adjust, right? But this is the core idea, and this is the thing that has worked the best for me. It wasn't just like the hardcore monk mode. It wasn't just like the full like grind mode, right? But obviously sometimes it's cool to like to go into like some crazy hardcore cycles. But honestly, like even if I would go into something hardcore, I will still like include at least the training, because that's just you wanna like train anyways, always, right? There's no like benefit in not doing it. But I do think it's super important to focus on the essential, the thing you will be doing most of the time, not these like random seasons of random hustle, because it's just a short season. You wanna like focus on what you will do like most of the other time, right? But yeah, this is what my own like personal dream day would look like. And there's one thing that I wanted to include, but I just haven't gotten it to make sense with my life. But it is just going to swim. I want to go to swim like daily or every other day or something like that. But that's not included like in the real life. So what is included in my day is, I get ready, I shower, yada yada yada. I train, b-boying. Then I just pretty much work on my clipping stuff. And if you didn't know already, and if you run a business, I help businesses to run their own clipping armies, which is basically the best way of marketing. Check out the bio down below. Yeah, work on the clipping stuff, and then I, eat and that kind of stuff. And then later on, I just do some music stuff, just for fun, because it's something that gives me energy, gives me purpose and motivation. But yeah, like it's quite simple. I wanna like add in there that swimming thing at some point. Oh, and like sometimes I'll go for a walk, but that's like super random, like what time I do that. But yeah, I do wanna like add the swimming in there at some point. Maybe replace the walking with that. But yeah, it's that simple. It sounds super simple, but like this small stuff, I noticed that this small mentality shift in just like doing the top 3 dream things now, that's gonna change things in a big way, especially like long term. It compounds. But yeah, I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.